School Admissions and Language Policies, Minister Siviwe Gwarube and Solidarity's Agreement. Ukungeniswa ezikolweni kunye neenkqubo zeelwimi. Isivumelwano sikumphithis with Siviwe Gwarube and Solidarity.
Welcome back. So the school admissions and language policies are again under the spotlight after the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Gwarube, and the organization Solidarity signed an agreement. The agreement was facilitated through the National Economic Development and Labour, NEDLEC, after the union declared a dispute with the minister. At the centre of the dispute is clauses number 4 and 5, which grants the provincial heads of education departments authority over school admissions and language policies. Signing it into law in September, President Cyril Ramaphosa delayed the two clauses for 3 months to allow consultations. Let's now have this conversation with the CEO of the Governing Body Foundation, Dr. Anthea Cereseto. Dr. Cereseto, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. What's your understanding around this agreement that has been signed between the minister as well as Solidarity, whereas in the same breath they are saying that this does in no way derail the particular process that was started by the president, with that deadline being the 13th of December?
Yes, exactly. What you say is correct. The president said that he was going to give 3 months for solution seeking. And many things have been going on behind the scenes, including the GNU's clearinghouse, who've been tasked with collecting inputs and seeking solution. So this particular memorandum of understanding or framework or whatever term you want to give it was reached at NEDLEC, which is one of the official bodies used for solution seeking. That's the mandate of NEDLEC. It normally deals with economic issues, but it can deal with social and community issues. And in this case, one of the unions plus other parties went in to try and find a solution to the clauses that they found were objectionable for various reasons. So a framework agreement was reached that would really defer the implementation of these particular amendments. There were 3 of them. And then along with that was a Department of Basic Education media statement, which is issued on behalf of the minister, explaining that this agreement was only part of what was going on to try and find solutions. And it wasn't the tabled solution. And other parties then got very upset, including the deputy president, who said it couldn't just be one party, political party, that is coming to an agreement with other people. That's not how it's done. There's still the official processes. And then eventually the president also made a statement and really just said the same thing, that this agreement that's, was at NEDLEC is just part of it. And it's going to the president for the president's consideration, as is all of the other discussions happening in other places, because everyone was entitled to help the president find a solution, including the official structure that the GNU set up.
Yeah, so in that statement that you're making reference to, President Cyril Ramaphosa affirms the role of the multi-party process on the Bella Act. I just quickly want to read this part of it. So the argument here is that President Ramaphosa reiterates his commitment to the undertaking made when he signed the bill on the 13th of September to give the parties 3 months to submit the proposal on Section 4 and 5. The President therefore awaits the outcome of those deliberations. It must be noted that the Bella Act was duly passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. It is now law. The Minister of Basic Education is enjoined to work towards the implementation of Section 4 and Section 5. So does this mean that the interpretation of the presidency is that the minister jumped the gun here, that the minister didn't involve other stakeholders, even though the argument from the minister's office is that NEDLEC it's an official institution,
yes,
and it is a legal process that was followed by Solidarity?
Yes, indeed. That NEDLAC has there's an act, a statute that defines the work of NEDLAC, and the minister was called to NEDLAC to participate, to account, a respondent, Solidarity, then called, plus the presidency. So this framework agreement actually has the signatures of the union who lodged the dispute, plus NEDLAC, plus the presidency, plus the minister. So there are all those parties, because that's how NEDLAC works. They've all signed it as a recommendation going off from NEDLAC to the presidency. And the president will then take into account what is said, but that doesn't mean that the official GNU process, which they call the clearinghouse, doesn't also go on, and that the clearinghouse can actually also take into account these things. I think the bottom line of this particular agreement, and it's become very politicized, and it's exposing, let's say, fractures in certain structures, which is disappointing. But I think if one can understand what's behind it. Now, our organization accepted the act as it stands and signed, but yet not implemented, because we thought there were protections in it. This particular dispute was lodged because the organizations don't believe that the protections were strong enough, that they still feared bullying by the heads of provincial education departments into directing schools to change language and forcing more learners into schools. And here's the point, without having objective grounds on which to make decisions. So they are right to say that in the Bella Act as signed, perhaps there aren't sufficient protections because you don't know what capacity of the school is, because you can put more children in a school provided the school has space. But what determines whether a school has space? Because those capacity norms and standards are still in a development stage, a very recently started development process. So there are a couple of those things to make it more objective so that when the HODs of the various provinces make a decision, they have to be rational and based on some solid information. And that this particular agreement is asking for regulations to determine what these objective criteria would be.
It seems as though that there is a misunderstanding also around what this particular agreement means, because the Mercury, their front page story today, War of Words on the Bella Act, they quote Dirk Herman, who is the CEO of Solidarity, and this is what he says. He says that the agreement between Solidarity and the government on Bella stands firm. Despite some openly protesting, the agreement between Solidarity and the government stands firm. The agreement was signed by Solidarity and the Ministry of Basic Education and the Presidency, to the point that you are just making now. But then on the other end, the Presidency is saying that, listen, the process is still ongoing. So should we understand this to mean, yes, there's an agreement in place, but this agreement is merely a recommendation that will still go to this process where you have the clearing of house under the GNU being led by the Deputy President, and by no means does it mean that clause number 4 and 5 will not be implemented post-December the 13th?
That's my understanding, that it is one of the agreements that's been put to the president. It's a high-level agreement because it actually has a presidency signature. The presidency sent a delegation or their spokesperson, negotiators, to this particular NEDLAC engagement, which wasn't an overnight thing. It was a somewhat lengthy process. And the presidency was represented. So it's not news to them. And they didn't veto
Well, it sounds as though that it's news to them. It sounds as though it's almost like they didn't know that there was this process underway. And that's the reason that there was this statement that was issued by the president and a different separate statement that was also issued by the deputy president.
Indeed. So that's why I've said, and this is, we are a non-politically party-aligned organization. We don't participate in the politics of it. We participate for the best of the children in schools. But it seems that there is some fracturing. In other words, some people know what's going on and others don't know what's going on. Or some people agree to a process, but others perhaps didn't know about a process that was underway. But LEDAC is an official structure. It is there. It's set up to help legislative processes, to solve things before they become problematic issues if law is implemented. It's really to help make informed decisions. So that's what they've done in order to help make informed decisions, because they say the head of department, when he or she makes a decision to direct a school to change a language or add a language or to add more children to the school, can only do it if it is a rational decision. It's an administrative action and must be rational. So how do you judge the rationality of it? You need more solid grounds and criteria for judging rationality.
Okay. Let's see how that's going to play out post the 13th of December, because that's the deadline that has been set by the President for various stakeholders to make submissions and part of consultation. And I wonder if it will at all also alter what has already been agreed to in Parliament and what the President has signed. But thank you so much for your time. Dr. Anthea Cereseto is the CEO of the Governing Body Foundation. That brings us to the end of that conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.